Russia's Northern Fleet vessels have completed their anti-submarine drills in the Norwegian Sea. The Russian Defense Ministry said the drill was part of a broader naval exercise. The ministry said a Russian missile cruiser and a frigate, aided by a specially equipped helicopter, practiced locating submarines during the drills. Russian military moves are being closely watched by the West at a time when a troop buildup near its border with Ukraine has sparked fears of a conflict, while Moscow has denied it plans to launch an attack on Ukraine. The troop build-up by Russia along Ukrainian borders has led to fears in its citizens. In the outskirts of a forest in Kyiv, a group of Ukrainian civilians are building shelters out of the deep snow. The two-day crash course in survival techniques will teach how to make fires and survive sub-zero temperatures. Dozens of Ukrainians living in the U.S. gathered in Philadelphia on Sunday to show support for their homeland. In front of the city's art museum, demonstrators held U.S. and Ukrainian flags and chanted slogans, including in support of Ukraine. Russia's massing of an estimated 100,000 troops near the border with Ukraine has brought increasingly strong warnings from the West that Moscow intends to invade. Russia is demanding that NATO promise never to allow Ukraine to join the alliance and to stop the deployment of NATO weapons near Russian borders. Moving on to the United Arab Emirates, where the country has now said that it has destroyed a ballistic missile launch in Al Jof province in Yemen after a missile targeting the UAE was reportedly shot down. The country's defense ministry released videos showing the targeted attack on the Yemeni site. The UAE intercepted a ballistic missile fired by Yemen's Houthi rebels as the Israeli president visited the country. According to UAE authorities, it was the third such attack in recent weeks. A man in France has been sent to prison for killing an 8-year-old girl and for sexual violence against two of his cousins who are minors. Visuals on your screen show a police convoy leaving the prison. The probe started in 2017 when the 8-year-old went missing at a wedding in the French Alps. The man faces lifetime prison if found guilty. The verdict of the trial is expected on February the 18th. In Hong Kong, a coalition of Christian groups called on Chief Executive of State Carrie Lam to drop charges against jailed media tycoon Jimmy Lai and other political activists under a China-imposed national security law. The petition by more than a dozen Christian groups and clerics was handed in to a government representative outside Hong Kong's government headquarters. Over 160 people have been arrested in Hong Kong under the security law imposed by China in June 2020. A carbon monoxide leak in a U.S. hotel in Ohio sent at least 11 people to hospital, more than half of them children. The leak was found out after police received a call which said a 2-year-old girl was found unconscious in the pool. Police say that investigation is going on to find the source of the leak. Several calls followed reporting symptoms of dizziness and a burning in the throat. Police said 2 of critical patients are stabilized and transferred to tertiary care facilities. Nine people died after a speeding muscle car ran a red light in North Las Vegas. According to authorities, the six-vehicle crash happened when a speeding motorist in a Dodge Challenger ran the red light on Saturday afternoon. The driver of the Dodge Challenger was among the dead. Investigators say that in total, 15 people were involved in the incident, with one still in critical condition in hospital. The victims of the crash range from the ages of young juveniles to middle-aged adults. Thousands of protesters in northern Chile demonstrated on Sunday against immigration and demanded more security in their city. The protest took place in the city of Iquique, just over 1,000 miles north of the capital Santiago. According to police officials, over 4,000 people took to the streets to take part in the protest march. Protests turned violent after a group of demonstrators stormed inside the beachside migrant tents and destroyed them. In recent years, Iquique has been overwhelmed by the mass arrival of migrants through the desert border with Bolivia, where hundreds of people pass through daily without any checks. Japan, meanwhile, has reopened a mass vaccination center in Tokyo for COVID-19 booster shots as Omicron takes hold in the country. The facility is being operated by the Self-Defense Force of Japan and had opened last year to help bolster administration of the first and second doses of the vaccines. The government plans to keep the Tokyo operation open until the end of July. Nearly 4,000 people staged a protest against Germany's COVID restrictions on Sunday. The protesters, mostly unmasked, rallied in Nuremberg as the country continues to report record COVID infection figures. The demonstration came 4 days after German lawmakers agonized over whether to impose compulsory COVID-19 shots as cases continue to spike. Chancellor Olaf Scholz has backed mandatory vaccines for those over 18 years of age, but his coalition government is divided on the issue. The Chancellor has told lawmakers to vote according to conscience. One of the placards seen in the rally read that the health minister, an epidemiologist himself, is worse than corona, while another said that I'm not a guinea pig for the pharmaceuticals industry.
Aber wo wir noch nicht waren, darf eine Versammlung anmelden. Also es sind medizinische Masken so geschrieben, das heißt,
Thousands of residents in the Czech Republic protested against the government's coronavirus restrictions on Sunday as the country continues to see new record numbers of cases driven by the more contagious Omicron variant. The crowd, estimated by police at around 3,000, filled the upper part of Wenceslas Square in central Prague, carrying Czech flags and chanting anti-government slogans. Despite the soaring numbers, the government scrapped a decree last week that made vaccinations mandatory for key professionals and the elderly population. However, proof of vaccination or a negative test is required for access to venues such as restaurants and clubs. Hong Kong is preparing for Lunar New Year while remaining largely isolated from the rest of the world under a stringent zero-COVID strategy. Multiple recent outbreaks have not deterred Hong Kong residents from shopping in preparation for the festival, despite the shutdown of large New Year fairs. After a one-year hiatus due to COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, the large Chinese community living in Buenos Aires and local residents gathered on Sunday to celebrate the Chinese New Year 2 days in advance. The traditional dance of dragons and lions appeared among the attendees, who hurried to touch them, a gesture considered good luck for the year ahead. February 1st marks the beginning of the lunar year, the year of the tiger. The year of the tiger in the 12-year Chinese astrological cycle starts from today midnight, waving farewell to the year of the ox. People in Vietnam have started preparing for the Lunar New Year of the Tiger, as the government urges people to exercise caution against COVID-19. In the old quarter of Hanoi, shoppers headed to the traditional market to look for decorations and flowers for the festival, which is called Tet in Vietnam. The market is opened about a month prior to Tet, which falls on February 1st this year. During this period, the streets in the market are lined with shops selling decorations in red and golden, the colors of good luck and prosperity. There are, however, less visitors than normal this year, as authorities have issued a warning against large gatherings and asked people to practice virus safety measures. Let's talk about the effects of climate change now. Landslides and flooding caused by heavy rains killed at least 19 people in Brazilian state of Sao Paulo, which include at least 4 children. 3 of the deaths involved people who were swept away by flood waters. The high water level has reportedly forced some 500,000 families to flee from their homes over the weekend. Sao Paulo governor announced nearly $2.8 million in financial aid to affected cities. Southeastern Brazil has received heavy and deadly rains since the start of the year. Hundreds of people rallied in Serbia in attempts to draw attention to the country's high air pollution and demand that authorities take action to improve air quality. The protests in central Belgrade was the latest in a series of gatherings organized by the increasingly visible environmental movement in the Balkan country. Serbia, like much of the Western Balkans, is facing multiple environmental problems following decades of neglect. The problems include poor waste management, low air quality, and polluted rivers. A winter storm has swept across Germany, killing at least 1 person. In Belitz, southwest of Berlin, a man succumbed to his injuries 1 hour after a falling billboard struck him. The port city of Hamburg, parts of the harbour are flooded and parked cars submerged in water had to be pulled out with winches attached to fire trucks. The German weather service, meanwhile, had warned of hurricane-force wind in the north that could reach speeds of almost 100 kilometers per hour. Gusty winds and falling temperatures plunged the east coast into a deep freeze as people began to dig out from a powerful nor'easter that dumped mounds of snow, flooded coastlines and knocked power out. Dangerous wind chills fell to below zero in many locations across the region after the storm dumped snow from Virginia to Maine. Philadelphia and New York had plenty of snow, but Massachusetts was the worst affected, with the towns of Sharon and Stoughton getting more than 2.5 feet of snow before the storm moved out.